Just subscribe to Xbox Game Pass. Here are 10 games you can't miss on PC. Subscription services are wonderful things. All those movies, all those TV shows, all those games, all for one cost. But then there's the small fact that we don't have all the time to match. This means we're left desperately scrolling for the best ways to fill the precious time we do have. The good news is that if you've invested in Xbox Game Pass for PC, we've pulled out the very best games to play first. From pirates and rhythm-based violence to dual-wielding machine guns and running a shop, here's our selection to stop you endlessly gazing at more games than anyone has the hours to play. Here are the best PC games to play on Xbox Game Pass. I'm not just saying this because I'm Scottish and biased, but has there ever been a more beautiful open-world racer than Forza Horizon 4? Answers on a tartan postcard, please. Playground Games' season-based Accelerator Fest is possibly reason enough alone to opt into Game Pass on PC. You can screech across Edinburgh and attempt to wave hello to Rockstar North. There's a Halo race if you want to dive deeper into the Microsoft pool. And the whole thing just feels so drenched in petrol-scented potential that it feels exciting just to go exploring and see what you'll find. The horizon is always packed with new and different kinds of races and experiences. Whether you're just taking in the sights by the sea or crashing through a windmill in the name of movie stunts, Forza Horizon 4 is constantly switching things up and mainlining perfect driving into your eyeballs at the same time. Start your engine here and you're not going to want to stop. The Gears series has given us numerous memorable moments: tragic loss, shattering violence, whole cities being sunk by a giant worm, but Gears 5 stands apart from the other entries for so many reasons. It's got the longest, most complex narrative campaign that the series has ever had, and in terms of presentation and gameplay, it shows that Gears still has the power to surprise us. Let's not get too overexcited. At its Kevlar heart, this is still a game about shooting ferocious aliens and chopping monsters in half with a chainsaw, but it's brave enough to take the series in bold new directions, adding RPG and open world elements that enrich rather than dilute the best-in-class over-the-shoulder shootiness. The original trilogy is still the best starting point for anyone looking to get to grips with Gears, but Kate Diaz's Icebound adventure is nevertheless completely essential.
Make it outside and your mission's complete.
We've talked a lot about Moonlighter on the channel, and that's for very good reason. Few games mash together two such compelling loops in such a thrilling way that we actually get excited about scurrying back to a shop to sell things. The combination of roguelite dungeon crawling and retail management is quite frankly ludicrously enjoyable. Will here is running a shop, but like most of us, has dreams of something a little bigger. In his case, it's being a hero, and thankfully that's exactly what he can become every night once the townspeople have gone to bed. True heroism in this case means questing through the procedurally generated delights of a selection of dungeons and bringing back piles of loot. The combat is challenging, the enemies are suitably nefarious, and you just won't be able to stop that just one more day in the shop feeling when you surface from the pixelated chambers. Oh no, it's 2 AM. Again. We know what you expect from a list like this. 10 games of impeccable sheen that would push an Xbox to the limits of its capabilities. And while Dead Cells might not have the grandeur of Forza's 4K Edinburgh, it offers overwhelming scale and a different type of visual fidelity. It's a granite-hard roguelite that sets the standard when it comes to grim but gorgeous pixel art. And it has an endlessly compelling fail, improve, try again gameplay loop that you'll happily lose evenings, weeks and months to. Dead Cells is a game where every demise feels like it could unlock a new path, a title that twists and challenges our traditional understanding of progression. It's also a game you should try even if the thought of twitchy, pattern-based boss fights fills you with nameless dread. And yes, I know that the castle is secretly the star shtick is a massive cliche, but in this case, it's absolutely true. An intimidating yet inviting, ever-changing citadel that will completely consume your life. I could try and get through an entire Sea of Thieves Anniversary Edition entry without making pirate puns, but you can wave goodbye to that idea. Rare's Roar 'em Up has been through quite the evolution over the last year and a half, and now includes plenty of treasure worth plundering on Xbox Game Pass. Grab a hearty crew, or in my case, Matt, and there are plenty more stories on top of your standard chicken and pig hunting missions. Interesting characters to meet across the world, and you can even fish to while away those long hours spent avoiding the brig. Reel your catch in, head to a sizzling fire, and cook your spoils to truly feel like a master of the deep. Just do remember to cook it, because if you attempt to eat it raw, this happens. But you could always just cook the rest amidst the vomit and then serve it up to a friend. Thanks, Matt, I really appreciate it. Is this truly what piracy is? You know that feeling when you've drunk too many energy drinks and it feels like you could run 2,000 miles and you can't even remember what silence is? Well, Sunset Overdrive is the video game equivalent of that. And if that sounds like a criticism, it's not. This is a popping adrenal gland of pure gameplay joy. A bubbling OTT adventure constructed from the same electrifying elements as Jet Set Radio. A more sedate way of summing up Sunset Overdrive would be to say it's all about traversal. And that means grinding on every surface you can find, bouncing off car roofs, and never staying still for a solitary second. It's a game that takes all the most exhilarating elements of every open world game, crams them into a soda can, and shakes them up until something explodes. In a world where many games are determined to make things grim and relatable, Sunset Overdrive revels in its raspberry-blowing, bird-flipping disregard for realism. It's hard to talk about Thumper and still sound like you're making sense. Well, it's about a bug, a really hard, sometimes metal bug that's hurtling along a track, and it needs to thunk into corners really hard and react on the beat to gain high scores and send giant face bosses into oblivion. See? But the good thing is that you can see it too, and so it's easier to convince you that Drool's so-called rhythm violence game isn't quite like anything else you've ever played. It starts off relatively simple, but you'll quickly be restarting sections on the hunt for that elusive S rank as you speed deeper into neon oblivion with only the incredible Brian Gibson score for company. As music games go, Thumper is one of a kind. Synesthesiasts form an orderly queue. You won't want to miss these beats. It's not easy being Lara Croft. Since her 2013 reboot, the Pilfering Princess has seriously been through the mill. Plane accidents, underwater skewerings, or just being hung upside down and having to set herself on fire to escape inevitable death. But don't let that put you off Rise of the Tomb Raider, in which Ms. Croft finally starts her career properly. Even if you didn't play the first one, this perilous entry makes for a brilliant single-player experience. The combat is joyously crunchy, and you can choose to stealth kill your enemies or just engage in all-out explosive warfare with bonus melee axe kills. Ouch. It's also worth noting just how gorgeous it all is. From snowy mountains and glaciers to leafy forests, this is the kind of adventure that you always imagined 90s Lara was having behind all those polygons. This is an essential Game Pass blockbuster.
Who the hell are you?
Now, first off, here at Logitech G, we don't normally tell you how to listen to your games. We only give you the means to do so. But for this entry, we're making an exception. Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice demands to be played in surround sound. The voices that live swirling in Senua's head, the Furies, must whisper in your ears as much as hers. An atmospheric and heartfelt exploration of mental health, as well as an all-out action-adventure, Hellblade is an entirely different kind of experience from your standard single-player game. Soaked in Viking mythology, Hellblade takes you and Senua questing to Helheim to regain the soul of her dead lover. Whether you're striking down foes with her sword or unravelling puzzles, Senua's Sacrifice is constantly atmospheric and utterly beautiful. This isn't like anything you've ever played before, and there's no better time than on Xbox Game Pass. It's right there.
And together we will make the Northmen feel our fury.
If Wolfenstein: The New Order wasn't ludicrous enough with its trip to the moon, the new Colossus is even more joyously unhinged shooting from Machine Games. Continuing BJ's Nazi slaughtering journey, the dual-wielding murder effortlessly gets bigger and better as he hunts down Frau Engel. It would be mean to spoil the story if you've not already had the pleasure, but suffice to say, the narrative somehow still manages to matter even when things head in a frankly odd direction. The shooting still reigns supreme with absurdly fun weaponry, the set pieces are as explosive as ever, the script is constantly surprisingly endearing, and hey, you get to shoot a lot of Nazis. Like, a lot. A whole lot. It just keeps going. So that's the 10 games you need to play on Xbox Game Pass on PC. Let us know if we've missed any of your favourites in the comments below, drop us a like if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe to Logitech G for more features and lists just like this one. If you do already subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you know exactly when our next video lands.